This is a video specially dedicated to those who are planning their first trip to Spain. While you try to organize your trip, the amount of doubts, questions and uncertainties that can accumulate are considerable, and today's program is dedicated to answering many of them and outlining a strategy for that first trip. Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello, I am Tony from Road Trip Spain and Portugal, where we help you plan the perfect trip with practical information, insider tips, and our very own travel guides. So it is your first trip to Spain. How do we sink our teeth into it? Let's start with a couple of preliminary considerations. The first is that Spain is a country with a very rich historical, artistic and cultural heritage. Wherever you go, you will find fascinating places worth visiting. And not just in the big cities, everywhere. And then there are the beaches, the gastronomy, the mountains, the sporting events. It's a lot of content that requires a lot of time. The second consideration is that on a first trip to Spain, you won't even manage to scratch the surface of the country. You will have to decide whether you want to have a superficial overview or whether you prefer to have a more localized view with a bit more detail. If you are wondering how many days you would need for Spain, you should know that there is no answer to that question. In a lifetime of traveling around the country, you won't get to see everything. Rather, you should ask yourself, with the time I have, how much can I fit in? A week can turn into an unforgettable trip, a month too. Let us now turn to a map of Spain that will help you make many decisions. First of all, let's talk about incoming transport. The vast majority of tourists arriving from outside Europe do so through the airports of Barcelona and mainly Madrid. These are the classic entry points into Spain. If you are thinking of doing an itinerary around the country and not just staying in Madrid or Barcelona, it may be worth looking into the possibility of buying a flight into Madrid and out of Barcelona or vice versa, thus optimizing your time. But if you had to enter and leave through the same airport, it wouldn't be the end of the world either. Now you are going to see on the screen the cities that usually appear on the itineraries of those visiting Spain for the first time. We see the two main cities of Spain, Madrid and Barcelona. We also see Toledo, often visited as a day trip from Madrid, and three cities in Andalusia with a fascinating historical heritage. With those 6 cities, you can put together an incredible trip. But now we add a second layer of cities that are either in the area of influence of Madrid and Barcelona, or in between, or in Andalusia, or on the northern coast of Spain. And in today's video we are not going to mention either the Canary Islands or the Balearic Islands, not for lack of merit, but because they do not usually feature on a first visit to Spain, and because those who visit them normally devote their entire trip to the island of their choice without making itineraries around Spain, not visiting other destinations in Spain. We already have a well-served map. To help you choose, we now show you the minimum number of full days we recommend for each of the cities we have shown you. Bear in mind that in addition to the time we advise you to spend in the cities, whenever you are going to move from one to another, you will have to add more time to your trip. For example, to have 2 full days in Granada, Seville or Valencia, which is what we recommend, you will probably need to sleep 3 nights in each city. Depending on the number of days you have available, there are many possibilities. You could decide that you are only going to visit Barcelona and Madrid. You could decide to visit Barcelona and Madrid and the neighboring cities. You could decide to see Madrid, Toledo, and the basics of Andalusia. Or, with enough days, you could start your trip in Barcelona, go down to Andalusia, and then return to Madrid. A few clarifications. Because of its geographical location, Santiago de Compostela is not usually a good choice for a first visit to Spain unless you have several weeks to spare in the country. For the same reason, neither Bilbao nor San Sebastian in the Basque Country are usually a good fit for a first short itinerary. But if you are going to Bilbao, be sure to include San Sebastian and vice versa. You will need 3 days to see both cities, including travel time between them. If you want to focus on Madrid, with the city and the excursions to Toledo, Segovia, Avila, Salamanca and El Escorial, you will have a beautiful trip. If you want to focus on Barcelona, with the city and excursions to Girona, Tarragona, Montserrat, you will have another beautiful trip. If you go down to Andalusia, you have to visit Cordoba, Granada and Seville. If you could add Cádiz and Malaga, the trip would be perfect. To give your itinerary the best possible shape, you need to take advantage of bases and day trips. A base would be a city in which you are going to spend more than one night and which offers you a range of day trips from there. The perfect bases in Spain are Madrid and Barcelona. The advantage of a base is that you don't have to change hotels and lose time. Therefore, using the bases on a first trip to Spain will allow you to get more out of your trip. In addition, the bases collaborate with the principle that we defend here: less is more. Better to visit a few cities and be able to see them at your leisure, soaking up everything they have to offer, than to go madly through many places without seeing much of them. Spain is not going to move from one place to another. What you don't get to see now, you can visit in the future. Missing out on seeing wonderful places because you didn't allow for enough time is a real shame. If you are interested in art and museums in Madrid, any time you can dedicate to the city will be too little. Give it an extra injection of days. And the same goes for modernist architecture in Barcelona. If you intend to submerge yourself on the work of Gaudí and other modernist architects, you will need at least a week in Barcelona. If you are interested in the Muslim legacy in Andalusia, don't rush past places like Granada or Cordoba. Make sure you give them enough time too. And if you want to eat well, it doesn't matter where you go, because success is guaranteed. Spain is a good destination at almost any time of the year, but if you had a choice, it pays to be careful with your choice of dates. The only caveat to what we have just said are the summer months, especially July and August, to which we have already dedicated a video on the channel that we recommend you watch when you finish this one. If you have a choice, May and June or the end of September and October are two excellent times to travel. Winter also has its charm with snowy landscapes in the mountains. For a first trip around Spain, nothing beats traveling on a high-speed train. Almost all the cities shown on the map are connected to the Spanish high-speed network, as you can see in the recent video we made showing the size of the network. Of the many videos we have dedicated to the high-speed train in Spain, we specially recommend two: the video in which we share 10 tips about the high-speed train and the video in which we explain what a high-speed train journey is like. If you are going to visit Spain, gastronomy becomes an absolutely fundamental part of your trip. Take advantage of all the videos we have already dedicated on the channel to learn more about the culture of tapas, the menú del día or sangría, for example. There are some common mistakes made by visitors to Spain, and we've dedicated several videos on the channel to them to prevent you from making them too. Be sure to watch the videos because they will prevent you from falling into traps when planning your trip. One final tip: when planning your itinerary, try to spend the night before your flight home in the city from whose airport you are departing. If you are flying back home from Madrid, sleep in Madrid, don't sleep in Granada. It will save you a lot of worry. That's all. In summary, the basics you need to start preparing a trip throughout Spain. You should know that in the channel we already have several itineraries ready for you to use at your leisure. On the screen you will now see the list of these itineraries. We look forward to seeing you there.